everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Language Talks. We are in conversation today with a senior French language teacher who is passionate about teaching and incorporates various techniques to enhance it. She has done her MA in French literature from the University of Mumbai. She has done her DEA or Masters in Comparative Literature from the University of Paris 3 or Sorbonne Nouvelle. Welcome to the show, Prachee.
Thank you so much.
I would like to start by asking you about beginning of your love for French. How did it all start?
I started learning French a little late in grade 11. So before my love for French, what came was my love for languages in general, which was thanks to my parents and my school. My parents, though not language professionals, have a deep passion for languages in general. My mother, being a businesswoman, speaks excellent Gujarati. She also learned Bangla when she was young. My father, before passing away, he translated Meghadutam from Sanskrit into
Oh,
Marathi.
okay.
And
Okay.
both my parents exposed me to Sanskrit when I was a child. They ensured, first of all, that my brother and I we speak good, flawless Marathi at home and read good books. So
Okay.
the ambience at home was very conducive to language learning in general. And also my school, because I went to St. Columba uh, in Gambeli, Mumbai. Uh, I studied in Marathi medium. And the
Okay.
uniqueness of my school was it also had an English medium. So I would interact with
Mm.
English medium girls all the time. It was an SSC.
Mm.
And usually in SSC schools, Hindi, English are taught later on after grade 5. But in my school, in primary years, we learned Hindi, English, Marathi simultaneously. And in my school, always a language was taught in the target language. Hindi was taught in Hindi, English was taught in English. Um, so that was a big thing for a Marathi medium student. Even today it is. Like,
Right.
and for example, in the library period, it was compulsory to take one Marathi book, one Hindi book, one English book. So I read a lot. The
Huh.
school paid they paid attention to the pronunciation. So even today,
Mm.
even in my sleep, I will not make a mistake of saying "per" in Marathi. I'll always say "per." So simple things like that, and it mattered.
Mm.
Later, grade 11, I took French. That
Mm.
was simply because I wanted to drop Marathi.
Mm.
Not because I didn't like Marathi. On the contrary, I was deep diving in Marathi literature and giving those limited answers based on limited lessons. That was a torture. So I wanted to drop Marathi, and the only foreign language offered by my college was French. So grade
Mm.
11, grade 12, I studied Sanskrit and French, and then
Mm.
that's how the love for French language started like that. Also thanks to very good teachers that I had and BA French literature, MA French literature. So literature was my oxygen. That's how it became more developed.
That's nice. Nice to know. What led you to become a French teacher, trainer, say?
A teacher and a trainer, two different things happened. I honestly
Mm.
do not know why I became a French teacher. I don't think I chose it consciously. After
Okay.
doing BA and MA in French, at that time there were not so many choices, or at least I was not aware of it. I only
Mm.
knew that I didn't want to become a translator interpreter.
Okay.
And I mean, I didn't enjoy it. I did it. I did a few projects. I did them well, I guess, but I didn't enjoy it. And so I became a teacher. Luckily for
Mm.
me, I taught at Alliance Française de Bombay, and I was
Mhm.
trained to be a teacher right from the beginning.
Okay.
And not
Mm.
in the beginning, only in the beginning, but also later on at regular intervals, I continued to benefit from different teacher training classes, and I
Mm.
followed that diligently. I was very
Mm.
receptive in those classes and tried to implement that in my class. So after a few years, when I accumulated enough experience to
Mm.
have the opportunity of becoming a teacher trainer. I grabbed it. That was a
Mm.
conscious decision because I was
Mm.
very, and I still am very passionate about teacher training, because whatever it said as the core principles of the communicative approach, inquiry based learning, everything
Okay.
that we teach in teacher training, those were not
Mm.
just words for me. I am 100% convinced about the usefulness of those principles because I use them in class, I have seen them work. And so I wanted to share that with younger teachers and help them to use it effectively. So teacher
Mm.
trainer was a conscious decision.
What are some of the challenges that students face while learning French, and how do you address them?
Uh, well, every child is different, every student is different, different challenges with every child, but some of them
Mm.
are related to pronunciation due to a
Mhm.
misconception that French is not written the way it is spoken. It's a total
Mm.
misconception simply because
Mhm.
uh, people try to read French using English, you know.
Okay.
But French for its pronunciation is much more
Mm.
regular than English. So if you
Mhm.
understand how certain syllables, how certain vowels and combination of vowels and consonants are pronounced, then it's very easy to do it. So once you show that to the students, it's easier. Um, when it is teaching in a language school like Alliance Française, uh, and
Mhm.
you have adults learning, sometimes they have a set way of learning things, traditional. So that becomes sometimes difficult.
Okay.
Um, yes, those are the main challenges, I think. And today people say that challenges are also in form of technology and artificial intelligence, but I don't think so. I
Okay.
started using technology long, long ago, well before COVID.
Okay. Mm. What methods or strategies do you find very useful while teaching French to the students? I'm sure you must be addressing a variety of age group of students.
Yes. Uh, so the core of my teaching philosophy is rooted in communicative approach because language is a means to communicate.
Right.
And language, any language is a set of rules, grammar, etc. So
Mm.
those rules, they help in
Mm.
communicating. They are the
Okay.
means, and the end
Mm.
is what we want to achieve is effective communication. If you use those
Right.
tools effectively, you will have effective communication. So,
Mm. Mm.
based on that, uh,
Mm.
the entire teaching philosophy is around this.
Mm.
So, whatever is said in communicative approach, task-based learning, etc., I think it helps when whatever we do in class is meaningful, you know, uh, and it
Okay.
means something to that student. I'll give you an example where in
Sure.
2010 I started experimenting with blogs, and
Mm.
each of my students had a blog, his or her
Mm.
own blog on blogger.com at that time, because that was the only platform. And
Okay.
this was an advanced level class, and there was a girl in my class who would speak correctly, but when it came to
Mm.
writing and giving me her essays for correction, sometimes, or
Mm.
rather very often, she would forget to conjugate her verbs.
Mm.
B2 C1 level, you don't expect that. So I used to correct her
Mm.
several times, didn't work. And then when I
Mm.
experimented with this blog, everything that she
Mhm.
wrote was perfect.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah, so the idea of
Yes.
blogs was each student had her own blog, and then the others
Mm.
would visit that blog, leave comments. And it was on
Mm.
Blogger, so it was not just for school or it was not just for her own class. It was for everybody in the world, right? And
Mm.
then I had a very active Twitter account at that time. I had advertised a lot about my project. Many people would visit those blogs and leave their
Hmm.
comments. So I asked this girl, I said, like, what happened? Like earlier you used to make these mistakes, now everything is fine. So she said, earlier only you were going to read it. And you are a teacher, so anyway you were going to correct it. I didn't care.
Oh, okay.
But now it's like, somebody is coming to my house, so my house is very clean, like that.
Hmm.
Now everything is perfect because people are coming, and whatever I'm writing is my
Hmm.
opinion. They are reading it as my opinion. So I have to be very careful of what I say. So it
Yes.
became a meaningful activity. She was still writing
Hmm.
argumentative essays only, but that form changed. It became a meaningful task and became more.
That's an interesting example you have given. You have been integrating cultural aspects and theater techniques in your French teaching methods. So please tell us more about it.
So, culture is very important because no foreign
Mhm.
language can be taught without exploring its culture. When it comes to French, it's not just understanding the French culture, but also Francophone cultures. Um, and when we prepare a lesson, any language teacher, when she prepares a lesson, he or she has to have one communicative objective, one linguistic objective, and one cultural objective. Otherwise, the class is incomplete. And it need not be something very, very fancy. It could be something very simple. For example, in A1 classes, we teach them how to talk about weather conditions. And
Okay.
there is this expression, il fait beau, means the weather is lovely. Now, in the French context, in the European context, the weather is lovely means there are no clouds, there is sun, right? But somebody living in Mumbai, you know, it's raining, it's beautiful weather for that person. So he says he'll pay both. So that won't be acceptable. So when that expression is taught, it has to be taught in that context and with all the cultural baggage that goes with that.
True.
And then if he wants to say that, no, but I like this weather, so then there are different ways of saying it, right? Huh? So those are simple things right at A1 level also. Today I also teach IBD, that is International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, and cultural links are an integral part of that program. So most of the time, what I try to do in my class is activities which are research skill based activities. And after that, there comes an important phase. Uh, the data is collected from internet elsewhere by interviewing or whatever. And then there comes a very important phase of analysis. Critical thinking is used to analyze it. And as you said, I did comparative literature. So, in comparative literature, we say that more than resemblances, differences reveal a lot about those literary texts. Similarly, here, when the students compare that French or Francophone culture with the Indian culture or any other culture that they know well, uh, there is a new perspective, there is a new understanding. It's not to show one of the cultures in poorer light or brighter light. No, not like that. It is in order to understand it better. It's to understand the correlation between the language and the uh, societal changes. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's how culture is taken care of in my classes. Then you asked about theater. So
Yeah.
two, three different things about theater.
Mhm.
First is how theater helps me uh, as a teacher.
Okay.
Has done a little bit of theater, not necessarily professional theater, etc. I know even amateur, serious theater. If the person has taken theater seriously, then the person's presence in class, the teacher's presence in class is a little different.
Oh.
The way the teacher moves in the class, the teacher uses the space in class, uh, how her posture, how she throws her voice, pitch, intonation, all those things become important. Very important peripheral vision. Theater helps you to develop the peripheral vision. Very
Mm.
important to
Mm.
maintain discipline if it's a bigger class. And second use of theater obviously is when the teacher designs for activities, language learning activities, by using some of the theater techniques. So I was very
Okay.
fortunate
Mm.
at Alliance Française de Bombay. I did a few workshops with experts that came in from France. Also, later on, I did two workshops in Mumbai with a group called Theatre Professionals, led
Mm.
by Johan Manekshaw. And I did it with the aim of using those theatre techniques in my class later. The class
Okay.
was not attended by only teachers. The class was attended by budding actors, and it was a very rigorous workshop. So I learned a
Mm.
lot with that
Mm.
group. And I modified some of those activities. I wrote blogs and articles also about it.
Mm.
Because those types of techniques, they allow innovation, then imagination, using the space once again, uh, and you forget your inhibition. See, even as a teacher, as I said, how it changes me is, suppose it's an A1 class, or in IB it is an ab initio class, beginner level class, and if there is a word like sote, so the
Mm.
teacher asks what is sote, I will not translate, right? I will jump in class. I don't have any
Mm.
inhibition.
Mm.
So those kind of things theater helps me to do. And
Okay.
students, they go in somebody else's shoes. So
Mm.
the fear of making errors, that goes down.
Mm. Mm.
Also, there are times when I have given a choice to students to use the form that they want. Like they
Okay.
have done some research work, analytical work, and they have to share the findings with other groups
Mm.
because they don't know, they have not worked on the same thing.
Right.
So I give them a choice. I say you can do a PPT presentation, you can write a song, you can do whatever you
Mm.
want. So very
Mm.
often I have observed, and this is not
Mm.
some rule or anything, but this is just my observation, is students who are very confident and who want to go solo, they will choose PPT presentations because there are 3, 4 points written on the slide and they want to speak. It
Mm.
requires a lot of confidence. But there are students who are shy, who are diffident, who, want to hang on to others, but still want to do something. They choose to write a skit,
Oh, okay.
and
Interesting.
because it's a collaborative effort, it helps a lot.
Mm.
And they depend on each other, they take inspiration from each other, they help each other, and it is
Mm.
creative.
Mm.
And
Right.
creativity is one of the biggest gifts that theater techniques gives in our classes.
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
Many people feel that creativity, when you give a lot of freedom, there is more creativity. That's not true.
Mm.
There are
Okay.
restraints that gives more, that helps creativity to develop more. Uh, I remember many years ago, we had
Mm.
one group at Alliance Française which had
Mm.
stories, and that story would continue throughout the lessons. And one of the
Mm.
stories was so boring, the students didn't want to study that. So they said, "This is too
Mm.
boring as a story." So then, what to do? So whatever had to be taught, I used other techniques and other
Mm.
documents to cover that, and then they created their own story. And we
Okay.
did it like a radio theater. So I think in
Oh, okay.
German that concept is there. I forgot
Mm-hmm.
the word. On Akashvani, it's called Shrutika,
Kritika. Yes. Huh.
right?
Right.
So at that time, Twitter did not
Mm-hmm.
allow multimedia. You could only
Okay.
write text on Twitter
Mm.
at that time. But there was another
Mm.
tool called Audio Boo. It has disappeared now, but it was like
Mhm.
an audio Twitter. So we used that.
Okay.
And the
Mm.
students, first they improvise different sounds, different intonations, this, that. And then they took on, different roles. They developed slowly, slowly. Then they created their own story. So why constraints? Because I put some barriers, that There
Okay.
has to be different phases of that story. And that's how that story became more uh,
Hmm.
beautiful
Right.
and more it, it was a better story than what was written.
Absolutely.
So yeah, theater students also like.
Yes, it's such a vibrant technique, right?
It is. But then it has to be
Great.
used correctly also. And it
Hmm.
should not be just used in form of role play. Because role plays
Hmm.
sometimes are not done correctly by teachers. Role play means you have to play that role and there is
Hmm.
improvisation. Instead,
Right.
students learn a dialogue and they just rehearse and do it. That's not very helpful.
Yes. Right. Prachi, you have been teaching for a long time. So please tell us about your memorable experiences in teaching.
Yes. So there are quite a few. The first one
Mhm.
goes back 26 years ago. Uh, this was a girl who had finished her
Mhm.
A1 level with me. She had just started A2. She came from a community where getting married early for girls was very important.
Mhm.
She was under a lot
Okay.
of stress from her grandmother, especially, to get married.
Um,
She was hardly
mhm.
19, 20 years old. So she told me, Prachi, I want to go to France and study. And she did not have time to finish B1, B2, or she would have been married off, you know. So
Right.
at that time, Campus France was not so active. So
Hmm.
I helped to do some research. We did that. We found a university where classes were delivered in English, but she had enough French to survive in France. She went to France. She managed very well. She didn't come back 1 year later as promised. She continued to study. She got a job. She started her own business. Later on, she, got married to a person, an Indian person of her choice, not somebody dictated by her grandmother.
Okay.
And it was a happy ending. When I
Hmm.
had gone to France and I met her
Hmm.
teacher also on the campus, and the teacher was
Okay.
very impressed at just with A2 level when she came and how she managed. And
Hmm.
this experience is memorable for me because it taught me, I was also young at that time, it taught me how what I'm teaching, it can give a freedom of choice to certain people.
Hmm.
Then a few years later, there was another student who had major medical problems. She used to attend just my weekend classes. She was hospitalized, and then later she started coming to class. She would sometimes come late, sometimes leave early, but the time that she spent in class, she was totally engaged. I did not know at that time. Later on, many years later, she sent an email when she recovered from those problems. That those were tough times for her, and she
Hmm.
used to skip hospital to come to me.
Hmm.
So that was very touching. And she said that Prachi, your classes, the weekend classes, the ambience, everything, that helped her to keep going with
Right.
whatever other troubles she had in life. So I felt very good. And then I think the most memorable students in overall are the ones who struggled. They struggled, and then I mean, I tried to help them in the ways that I knew best, and they
Mhm.
overcame challenges. So, a few students who were very shy in the beginning, very diffident, they didn't want to speak in front of everybody, but they did eventually later on, develop good speaking skills also. Then
Okay.
I remember particularly one girl uh, who had a severe
Mhm.
learning disability, and she got an AC
Okay.
test. So,
Hmm.
her 80%, I think that was more valuable than another student getting 99.
Okay.
Very memorable.
Right. That's really nice. Thanks for sharing. As someone who also trains teachers to teach French, what are the key principles you emphasize that they should use while teaching French?
So, first of all, teacher training is very close to my heart. It's
Okay.
very important. Uh, and I think that it is ignored in India. That my biggest sadness, and I get angry because of that. But when I teach to become teachers, obviously the core principles of the methodology, which is well tested, all that is taught. So I
Okay.
expect the teachers to put it in practice.
Mhm.
Prepare your lessons
Oh,
before going into a.
hmm.
If you step into
Okay.
a class without preparing, it's a crime. Don't be a teacher in that.
Right.
Then uh, there is also you know something to do with the attitude of the person.
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
if you think that you know everything and
Hmm.
you're going to teach, no, that's not how it works. A student might teach you something. Be
Hmm.
open-minded to receive that. And I mean, you're not teaching anything. He already knows. You're just helping him to discover.
Right. Hmm.
Just accompany the student, show him the path,
Okay.
be with him for a little bit, and that's it. Uh, Also, keep learning, be a
Hmm.
lifelong learner.
Okay.
Because I cannot build today a house the way it was done 50 years ago, right?
Hmm.
So how can I teach
Right.
how I taught 20 years? I have
Hmm.
to evolve with the profile of the students is evolving. I have to evolve with
Hmm.
that. The surroundings are changing. I have to make appropriate changes. And for that, another very important thing is being
Hmm.
every teacher. Uh, I want every teacher to be reflective.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have taught one class, I come out of the class. I should be able to see my class like a rewind button, scene by scene,
Oh, okay.
my class, like a
Hmm.
what did I do? What did my students do? What had I prepared? Did it go well? How did the students react to this activity? How did
Hmm.
it go different? Was there something unexpected that happened? How did I react to it? Should I have reacted in a different manner? Next time, if it happens, I do it something differently. You know? So the same lesson, if I have to do again, will I do it differently? What will I do to improve that? All that introspection is a part and
Hmm.
parcel of a teacher's job. So being reflective is very,
Hmm.
you know, and in language learning, especially the skill development,
Hmm.
you're developing skills. You're not just
Hmm.
teaching grammar and you're not teaching only vocabulary.
Hmm.
You're helping them to
Yeah.
develop skills so they become lifelong learners. Like,
Oh.
I mean, it's a bit philosophical perhaps, but I feel a successful teacher is somebody who knows how to become redundant,
Hmm.
you know. Like,
Okay.
if I teach my child how to learn, then one day I
Hmm.
won't be required. And that's my success. To cut that
Hmm.
cord and let the child fly away from the nest. That's the success for it. And every teacher has to be on that path and has to keep
Hmm.
working. I don't like lazy people becoming teachers.
Oh. Oh.
I mean, those
Yes.
are the things that I insist. Then, obviously, also, I mean, see, everything is not just structure. It's also, I tell the teachers that when you give an
Mhm.
exam step, very often we ask the students what they learned that day. But once in a while, also ask the students how did they feel in your class that day.
Hmm.
Huh?
Okay.
Child has to be happy. The learning process has to be a process of happiness, right? And
Hmm.
so that's very important. So I tell the teachers don't use sarcasm in class. If
Okay.
sarcastic remarks, no. The person who is at the receiving end of the sarcasm, for that person, it is not humor. Because how does
Hmm.
he feel after that? He feels bad, he feels hurt. You're not laughing
Right.
at the person, you know. So avoid
And it
those.
doesn't help either.
Students are at ease all the time and, accept their individuality. Don't forget that they are individuals. They are not just, I mean,
Okay.
besides the uh, core components of how to teach, how to prepare
Hmm.
lessons, these are the other things that I think.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Prachi, how do you stay updated with the latest developments? It could be language, technology, or teaching methods, learning methods. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So to stay updated, I do have my own personal professional learning network. Uh,
Mhm.
there was a time when I was heavily on Twitter. I had more than 2,000 followers on Twitter who were just professional contacts. And I
Mhm.
learned a lot because through that. Today, I also have like other colleagues with whom I would interact and
Mhm.
learn. There are magazines, blogs, especially blogs that I
Okay.
keep working at. IBTP
Mhm.
has its own set of learning networks.
Oh.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so especially this helped me, this kind of networking helped me when I tried to integrate technology much before COVID, 2010. I
Okay.
started with blogs, as I said. Then, with the help of my director at that time, we created a
Okay.
project where we had a social networking site for language learning for Mumbai Alliance. And then we
Okay.
help the other alliances in India to develop that also.
Mhm.
I always kept learning new things through my contacts, virtual contacts, etc. And I tried experimenting a lot.
Mhm.
I developed blended learning model for
Okay.
alliance process. Things like that. I used a lot of e-tandem projects at a time. And
Mhm.
that happened because I
Oh.
had contacts in all four corners of the world with different French teachers.
Mhm.
And that was very rewarding for students also because, we had an e-tandem project between Mexico and Mumbai. So very few Mumbaikars have friends in Mexico and vice versa.
Okay.
So here what
Mhm.
happened is those students were learning French, my students were learning French, and French became a medium that allowed this kind of exchange because my students didn't speak their language. They didn't speak English, but French became a medium. So, learning French became meaningful in this mediation. And
Okay.
they learned a lot. Again, like earlier, as I said to you, cultural aspect. The Mexican students had told my students about La Fête de la Mort, the festival of the death and all that we have. So first my
Huh.
students, oh my God, what is this? So I said, okay, so think we don't have this. Are you sure we don't have this? You know. And then I had students from all religions, and slowly they said, oh yeah, Hindu said we have Shraddh. Muslims in India have something similar, which other Muslims
Mhm.
don't have. Parsis had something else, So every religion in India had that kind of a thing, and then they wrote about it. So this was
Mhm.
not in any textbook, but this
Okay.
happened and it happened because of my networking with other
Um,
teachers.
right. Right.
So I think social media has to be used for this also, uh, to grow your own network and learn. Because I was experimenting and I was not shy. I would write to any expert in the world and say, "This is my project. Please go through this and give me your opinion." And that's how I
Right.
learned because there was no textbook to learn.
Okay. What changes do you see in the language scenario over the years?
Uh, what I would like to see, right, or what I see is obviously artificial intelligence. Uh,
Mhm.
but 20 years ago, we had the same narrative about internet. The same things are said today about artificial intelligence. So if we make appropriate changes, everything is going to be fine. Uh, Otherwise, in India, what I would like to see as language scenario is
Mhm.
um, something on the lines of, CEFR, a common European framework is there for languages. Similarly, for Indian languages, if India could come up with something like that, I think that would
Mhm.
really help the development of language. I don't like the way languages, all languages are not just taught in India. As I said, teachers are not because it's not important for us. And uh, the same way it is taught, traditional way, because it's not the
Okay.
teacher's mistake. I don't blame the teachers. They are not taught. Nobody has told them to. Even in French, a few years ago, I mean, more than 2, 3 decades ago, actually, there was a wonderful book developed by two teachers in Pune with the help of
Okay.
attaché language on
Okay.
English. It was a revolutionary
Hmm.
book, I felt, but it did
Hmm.
revolutionize our world in teaching because evaluation
Hmm.
system remained the same. So
Hmm.
nobody thought about, you know, 360 degrees of language.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right.
so those are the things, if they changed, it would be better. Today, new education policy is there. I hope
Hmm.
that it is implemented very soon. Um, and all these things that I'm talking about, 21st century skills, are mentioned. So I just hope that teachers are trained properly to deliver that, and
Okay.
teachers take that seriously. And even Indian languages should be taught in a communicative way.
Hmm.
Because if
Right.
India wants to be a superpower, Indian languages have to be powerful. And we don't have just dialects in India, we have languages, we have classical
Yeah.
languages, a long history.
Right.
Uh, so they deserve better teaching methods.
Okay.
And even uh,
Hmm.
when when you want to learn a foreign language and master that,
Hmm.
before
Hmm.
that, you need to have a strong foundation in any one language, which is your mother tongue. You need to have a mother
Hmm.
tongue proficiency in at least one language, which we are losing,
Right.
you know.
Hmm.
Like earlier, when I used to teach subjunctive
Hmm.
in French, in English, there are
Okay.
very few usages. It exists, but
Hmm.
we don't use it much. But in Hindi, we use it. And there is something called no expletive, you know.
Hmm.
So the students would say, but why is it there? I don't have an answer. Why is it there? No, I used to say it's a beauty spot of my French language.
Right.
And then I would give them an example. I said, translate this sentence in. And the translation in Hindi would be, मुझे डर है कहीं तुम गिर
Hmm.
न जाओ.
Hmm.
I would say कहीं गिर न जाओ. न कहाँ से आ गया? वो गिरेगा कि नहीं गिरेगा? डर का है का? You know, so no is there. So I said, you accept it there now. It's the same,
Ah, so-
you know, and then they would understand. Today, unfortunately,
Hmm.
students don't understand this because they don't know this much Hindi,
True.
you know. So there is no other language to fall back on, and
True.
that's a waste, you know. Language awareness is important. When,
Yeah.
you know, like earlier, at least my generation, growing in a big
Hmm.
city like Mumbai, you would be exposed to 3, 4 languages as a child,
Right.
and that developed your language awareness overall,
Hmm.
which is not happening today. Everything is English, English, English.
Yes.
And I taught English also. I did my CELTA certificate of English language
Acha. Okay.
in London. I took out a loan to learn that.
Hmm.
I thought it would give me a different perspective in French also, and it did. But since I was certified to teach English, later for a very brief period of time, but I did this. I taught students who had just given their 10th standard examination, awaiting to go into junior colleges, but who came from Marathi and Gujarati mediums,
Hmm.
and they were very low on confidence, right? They knew English grammar, but they could not speak. So I would just
Hmm.
do conversational English with them at that. And they were wonderful minds, brilliant minds, you know, but the system here, we label them as somebody who is dumb just because they are not expressing their thoughts. And this is happening in a sovereign country after 70 years of 70, more than 75 years. So in language scenario, if these things change, I feel it would be good for Indian languages, and that in turn would be good for foreign language learning.
Right. Prachi, you are a French language expert and you're passionate about your mother tongue, which is Marathi. So, which other languages do you plan to learn?
So I don't think I would learn another language.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm too much in love with French.
Okay.
And I would like to make my French more perfect than learning another
Mhm.
language.
Oh.
And
Mhm.
maybe in a few years after my retirement, maybe I would like to go back to Sanskrit because
Oh.
I am aware that I'm losing it now, slowly, slowly. And
Okay.
I would like to get back to
Mhm.
Sanskrit.
Okay. Okay. That's nice. Okay, that was great, Prachi. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for this.